We are about to listen to a distinguished activist and educator. And hopefully after this session, we will also join her in her endeavor to protect the Okinawans, as well as obtain the rights that they fully deserve. So our second keynote speaker is a native Okinawan mother, an activist, a writer, a co-director of the Association of Comprehensive Studies for Independence of the Luchuans, and a part-time lecturer at Okinawa University. She runs after-school kids programs in Naha and also specializes in language revitalization, demilitarization, and decolonization of the Ryukyu Islands. She has attended the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues and expert mechanism on the rights of Indigenous peoples to report the colonized situation of the Ryukyu Islands. And during her free time, she likes to go to the beach, study Okinawan language, and explore the beauty of Okinawan nature with her family and friends. So to help us better understand the perspective of Okinawans in terms of militarization and democracy in Okinawa, let us lend our ears to, and please help me welcome Professor Shinako Oyakawa. Round of applause, please.
Thank you very much. Okay, can I share my screen? Okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
All right. Okay. So I'm Shinako Oyakawa. Thanks so much for inviting me again to Yonaoshi event, and I really appreciate it, and I'm so happy that that your students in international students who studied in Tokyo interested in Okinawan issue. So I would like to share what I know about about Okinawa and this our struggle and our democracy, our movement, and so on. Okay. Sorry, I need to minimize my. Let's see. ちょっと待ってね. Let me see. Okay, pin and share. Okay, no. Okay, so I'm Shinako Oyakawa. As she introduced me. I live in Naha. I was born in Okinawa City, and then my lifetime is here all the time. I studied abroad 3 times. I studied in America, Louisiana, and Hawaii, and then I also studied in London, England. And I had a chance to talk to so many indigenous people around the world. So I was inspired by them, and I want to let the people know about Okinawan issue. And then I also want to learn from Japanese people, international people, and then we want to solve this problem. So I will talk about Okinawa today. Okay, briefly, I will introduce the history of Ryukyu and Okinawa. Okinawa prefecture is made up of a number of islands between Kyushu and Taiwan. The discovery of human-born fossil of the Yamashita caveman dating back some 32,000 years has confirmed that humans have lived in Okinawa for many thousands of years. It's like a Japanese oldest one. So sometimes people always believe Okinawans people are from Japan, like a mainland Japan, or we're the same roots, but it's not really known yet. Some people, some scholars analyze that it's in the same group, but it can be really different too, according to the a DNA or ethnicity or so many perspective. But it's it's really hard to say it's just the same. In 1429, the Ryukyu Kingdom was established, but it's last actually 500 years, so it's longer than Edo era. But in 1609, the Ryukyu Kingdom was incorporated into Japanese federal system under the shogunate. Satsuma, now it's called the Kagoshima Prefecture. It's invade Okinawa, and then it's used Ryukyu Kingdom to trade China and then try to bring the goods back to Japan and so on. And later in 1879, it was annexed by Japan with the birth of Meiji government. If you can look at the pictures in below, the very left is the Basilho. He is a doctor from England. He came to Naha and meet the people and then sketch about the Ryukyu villages. And then second to the left is the picture by Perry from America. And it's described how the people is wearing and then what's the architecture in Ryukyu. And the third picture is taken by the French sailor, and it's about the Ryukyu Kingdom Shuri Castle, the castle of the king. But two very first one to the right side, this is a picture when Japanese, military came to Okinawa to annex Ryukyu Kingdom. So the annexation is now it's in Japanese history, it's called Ryukyu Shogun, as if like Ryukyu did something bad and they, have to like a punishment. But actually it was the annexation, and you can see that, they brought the military and the police to make the king sign to annexation document, and then they took the king to Japan. Okay, so after Japan, officially came and then annexed Ryukyu, the assimilation and dissimilation was really big in Okinawa. Assimilation policy was brought to Okinawa, and Ryukyuan language were banned in schools. If you speak in local language, Ryukyuan languages, and you can be, like a spanked or punishment, and then a lot more like a cleanup or homeworks and so on. So students are kind of like afraid to speak local language in front of teachers. But usually they were speaking speaking Okinawan language at home or between friends. But gradually, since it's discouraged to use of the local language, it's more and more people are speaking the language. And today, unfortunately, it's called the endangered languages. I will mention about it later, but it's really sound like I was born in 1981, so I'm 40 years old now. But my age, like see, like I speak English, but I can't speak my language fluently like this. And it's according to the local government survey. In 70s and in 80s, it's their mother tongue, but after the war especially, it's the number of people who can speak the language decline, and it's rare to speak the language. It's not banned now, but it's still like it's not encouraged to speak it either. So assimilation for a long time, it really affects the human mentality. It's more precious to learn English than Uchinaguchi, like Okinawan language, or it's useless to use the local language. It's not good for anything. That kind of mindset is already made up in Okinawa. So it's really crucial time now. Well, anyway, well, it's this assimilation policy started to promote the imperialization policy. And Ryukyuan people have to force to be proper Japanese. We're the second class, we have to be proper Japanese. And 1903, fifth industrial exhibition in Osaka, Korean, Ainu, Taiwanese, Aboriginal, and Okinawan women were displayed in the pavilion of the human race for visitors to appreciate the similarity and differences between real Japanese. This is the picture that from that pavilion. This is a real picture from it. And then at the time, you know, since the assimilation policy is really, really rare, I mean, big in Okinawa, so the Okinawan people fight for it, you know, to find this picture and say, we are real Japanese, so we don't, you know, take these Okinawan women out because we are real Japanese. We are different from like those Ainu people or Taiwanese people. So, you know, at the time, a lot of Okinawans people internalize this assimilation policy and then really believe in Japan or Japanese. So they don't want to be discriminated as other people from colonies. So they try to motivate themselves a lot to be real Japanese. So top down and bottom up language shift, and also this like a nationality, ethnicity, and an identity crisis is there at the time. And then still this conversation is continuing now on. We really confuse either we're Japanese or Okinawan or how we called ourselves. And Battle of Okinawa, World War II broke out in the Pacific in 1941, and then Okinawa was the tragic scene of the Grand Battle in 1945. This battle was one of the bloodiest in the Pacific, it said. The Japanese military planned to delay the US arms from landing on the mainland. So they want to, you know, they don't want the US military come to mainland Japan. So they just want to keep it within Okinawa so that it's really, really, you know, bloodiest that people said, like it's the hell of this ours or something like that, the, you know, soldiers always mention about it. Okinawan people, even students, were forced to fight without any training, and then Okinawan people were taught to kill themselves rather than be captured. Some were killed by Japanese soldiers as spies since they spoke Okinawan language. That's that, you know, Japanese people won't understand. So, you know, who's our enemy? Is it US soldiers or Japanese soldiers or both? Maybe, you know, maybe both. It's, you know, steel of typhoon, it says, like a lot of you know, missiles, and then, you know, bullets come from the air and then come from the ocean. And then also you know, Okinawan local people told we're the friend, or like we're Japanese, real Japanese, and to help the Japanese military. But actually, Japanese soldier cannot believe in Okinawan people because you're different. And then sometimes they killed or they, you know, pushed it out from the shelters, cave. So that, you know, many Okinawan local people lost our lives, and resulting in the deaths of 1/4 of the island's population. Some scholar counted 1/3 too. It's really hard to actually count it itself. It's still, you know, these two pictures on the left are from the Battle of Okinawa. And to the right, this is called the cornerstone of the peace. And this is a memorial cornerstone. And then these white letters are the names of the people who was killed in the battle, no matter what the nationality it is. So it's, you know, all the names like Okinawan, Japanese, American, like English, or, you know, the people who died in the battle is written on the corner. So it's quite a lot. And then still, sometimes we found out the names and then some proof about the people who lost their life in the battle. So we keep, writing on the corner, the names on the corner to memorize how it was. And after the battle, it's time of the more like a U.S. militarism is coming down to Okinawa. So I want to share this video. This is one of the organization of the of Okinawa to seek for the peace movement.
沖縄、日本の南西部最西端に位置する県で、面積は日本国土の 0.6% になります。本州では見られないような美しい大自然が魅力で、エメラルドグリーンに輝く海は東洋一の美しさとも言われるほど。今その美しい島国、沖縄での新基地建設問題について、随分と長い間騒がれていますね。あなたは、
So how much do you know about
沖縄新基地建設問題について、7つのポイントでざっくり。そもそもなぜ日本にアメリカの基地があるのでしょう。1945年、第二次世界大戦で日本は敗戦国となり戦争することを放棄しました。そして武器を持たない代わりにアメリカに守ってもらうという約束をしたのです。その際、日本全国33都道府県に米軍基地が設置され、沖縄は1972年までの27年間、米軍の統治下に置かれることになります。2、沖縄に増えた基地。大戦後、日本は目まぐるしく発展しました。そして、全国各地で米軍基地はいらないという反対運動が起きました。しかし日本政府は、米軍を日本からなくすわけにもいかず、本土の米軍基地のほとんどを沖縄に移動させたのです。
So that U.S. military bases were all around all around Japan at the time after the war. But gradually the economy is good and they want to independent and they want to do their own thing. So they put all the U.S. military bases in Okinawa. It's within Japan, but it's not Japan. So that was really tricky.
その結果、日本に駐留しています。沖縄にはその国の軍隊と一緒に、沖縄に基地を置かなくてはならないという理由には全く当てはまりません。4、米軍基地の弊害。では、米軍基地があると何が困るのでしょうか。航空機の騒音や実弾演習による山林火災、戦闘機などの墜落事故、米兵による事件が多発、住民との間で多くのトラブルとなっています。日本に復帰後43年間で米兵が犯罪で検挙された件数は5896件、年平均137件、月平均11件に上ります。また、日本ではアメリカ軍人を特別扱いするルールがあり、犯罪を犯した米兵を正当に裁くことができません。しかも、そのことを米兵たちは知っています。米兵による繰り返される性犯罪などは大変深刻な事件です。また、基地の周辺で騒音問題や環境破壊があっても、日本の法律では規制できません。さらに、米軍機の墜落や不時着、部品落下などの事故は43年間で676件、年平均で 15.7 件。航空機による騒音被害は最大時で 120.6 デシベル。これは飛行機のエンジン近くの音に匹敵します。5、オスプレイ問題。なのです。辺野古新基地建設。沖縄本島北部の名護市辺野古は自然が非常に美しい地域です。貴重な生物が住み、たくさんのサンゴもあります。新しい基地の広さは約205ヘクタール。そのうちの約160ヘクタールは沖縄の貴重なサンゴ礁の宝の海を埋め立てる計画です。甲子園球場のグラウンドの158倍の広さの海や自然が破壊されることになります。そしてその埋め立て工事費だけでなんと2311億円。建設費の総額は約3500億円と言われています。新国立競技場の建設費用の2520億円よりもはるかに高額な投資となりますね。それだけの国民の税金をかけて建設しようとしている辺野古新基地は現在の普天間基地からわずか36キロしか離れていません。
The U.S. government said like they want to have their new bases, and then this plan was there before before the Okinawa reversion in 1970. So it was in the 1950s or so. But the original plan, they didn't have any money. And then Japan said, okay, you can do it. And then Japan pay it. So it's really win-win for the Japanese government and also the US government. But for Okinawa, it's only like a 30 minutes to go. And then, you know, creating new base is good for Okinawan people because it's, you know, outside of the cities and then it's a rural area. So it's good for you. But actually it's killing the ocean. And also it's, you know, it's there, it's like a 30 minutes away. It's the risk is all the same. And people don't want it. And then we are fighting this military issues over, you know, over 75 years, 70 years, 75 years. So why just, you know, why we have to have another one if it's you know, if it's completed and we have to fight for US military another 100 years, 200 years. Okay, so maybe if you are interested in, you can watch it later. So I go back to my slide. I have maybe 3-5 minutes. Okay, so so that sometimes like a, you know, my Japanese friend call a base issue, and then, you know, I like my Japanese friends, so I don't criticize them, but it's always like they believe like it's like a history, like it's past. And it's just one issue, something, but just one issue. But it's not just one issue, you know, military crash, you know, crash down into elementary school, or 6-year girl was raped and killed. And land grabbing, you know, even after they, you know, after the war, they rebuilt the house, but they took it without any, you know, agreement or anything. And well, you know, water bound due to the contamination. So it's like a, you know, and the nuclear warhead accident was in Naha, but we didn't know about it, you know, like it's like, oh, you know, our land is used by the military purpose. So they don't want to hear any, like, you know, people's, civilians, like the local people's voice. They just do whatever they want to do. And Japanese people cannot, they try not to watch, they try not to see, they don't try not to hear, so they pretend as if they don't know anything. But you know, this is happening in Okinawa in the past, but it's not just in the past, it's now. A window of US helicopter dropped in school, elementary school in 2017. 20 years old Okinawa woman was killed, you know, tried to raped and then killed by ex-Marine. And Henoko new base construction is ongoing. How beautiful it is, you know, you can see the picture and then how precious it is, but it's killing right now. It's really, really harsh. You know, we're so sad about it, and we're angry about it too. And then toxic fire extinguisher foam leaked, and you know, it's like a PFOS, you know, it's like a chemical contamination is there on the liver and then to the soil. And not just the US military, but also the self-defense forces bases, you know, the water tank marks 9,200 times more than guideline of this PFAS, this chemical contaminated thing. So, you know, we live next to these, you know, basis, and then the risk is all the same back in the, you know, 70 years ago, 50 years ago. It's same, it's never solved. But we don't give up. We have democracy, and then democracy is from America. We learn from America, and constitution is a peace constitution of Japan. Like we learn from both America and Japan to how to fight as human, like, you know, using constitution and democracy. But those countries just ignore our rights, and then they have double standard to just use our land there freely. And nonviolence and disobedience, Nuchido Takala, is our philosophy. So we are fighting like this, and still now. Ryukyu Islands and Ryukyu people. This is another problem that's not just the US military new base construction on Henoko, but also Amami Islands, Okinawa, Miyako, Ishigaki, and Yonaguni. It's all new self-defense force bases is created it, and they didn't want to make more like a training, you know, and this is not for us, you know, this is the military wants to protect land, but not the people. They say like a recapture strategy. So they, when, you know, something like a China attack Okinawa, then they, the self-defense force just remove, you know, move, and then they try to recapture again. That's their strategy, you know, on the document. It's so like what the people who live on the island. So it's sometimes Japanese people say it's a paradise. Okinawa is paradise, but at the same time they want to use the land for militarism. So now we have to really think about the decolonization and self-determination. Okay, so indigenous people's rights.
I think that it's like the issue of how they feel.
So in 2008, the UN Human Rights Committee called on Japan to recognize Okinawan people as indigenous people. In 2009, the UNESCO recognized 60 Ryukyuan languages as endangered or severely endangered. In 2010, the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination criticized the concentration of this US military bases as contemporary forms of racism. And 2014, the HRC and SART issued a further recommendation to Japan. And a couple of days ago, there's another document out from the UN. So like UN recognize us as indigenous people, but the Japanese government don't recognize us endangered people. They assimilate and dissimilate at the same time to try to, you know, do the sophisticated way of colonization. But people watch it, you know, already know about it. So we, I am the member of the Association of Comprehensive Studies for Independence of Ryukyuan. Ryukyuan is like an old, our way of saying like a Ryukyu people. So we goes to UN Permanent Forum or like indigenous issue to talk about Okinawa initiatives. Also, we learn from other indigenous people because we are fighting kind of like the same thing, or we have so much similarity and we can learn each other, and we have to reach to the world to know about what's happening in Okinawa. Okay, so that's all from me. David, thank you very much.
I mean, what I learned from this presentation is that Okinawa history and identities were erased, and then also it continued to be erased unless people who are joining here today do something to stop human rights violations against Okinawa people. And I hope that with your voice and help, we can create an environment that recognizes the oppressive history of Okinawa in the past and make changes not to live in the future. So I believe that your action is too small to make a difference.
Thank you so much.